Back to the Truth in Trauma Project. This teaches the community how to gain resilience and has protective factors. This program promotes healthy youth-adult partnership to seek and engage young people through informal and formal mentoring. It adds leadership opportunities. For the African American youth, positive youth development can also include cultural affirmation and support of unique identity factors that apply to African American communities. These factors include combating the negative portrayal of Black youth media and within low-income communities and provide access to positive role models. As a restorative practice, it is a method of building social capital and achieve social discipline through participatory learning and decision-making. It enables people to restore and rebuild their communities. Being trauma-informed, since there's high rates of trauma exposure, it is important that the workers are empathetic and able to work with the client to help them understand the post-traumatic stress that they're having. Another intervention that I found to be positive for this community and population is multi-systemic therapy. This is a service that intensely works with the family and the youth to keep the child in their home, reducing out-of-home placement, and that is up to 50% of keeping the kids out of placement. This is an evidence-based program. It's for juveniles 12 to 17 with serious delinquent behaviors. The therapist helps to keep the youth out of trouble, reducing the re-arrest rates by up to 70%. This works to help improve family relations and functioning, decrease adolescent drug and alcohol use. Through the intensive involvement of contact with the family, MST aims to uncover and assess the functional origins of adolescent behavior problems. It works to alter the youth's ecology in a manner that promotes pro-social conduct while decreasing the problem in delinquent behavior. A lot of times the parents like to have someone that they're close to or find as a support, help them be able to identify their needs and work on changes to increase their parenting skills. Systems and social ecological theories from the theoretical foundation of MST. As a family-based home intervention, this identifies the practical issues that impact the youth's serious antisocial behavior within his or her social environment. It meets the needs of the parents as well, being able to have the therapist come to them in any setting. So if they lack transportation or have different job hours, this is able to be worked around. Various therapies inform the specific treatment technique used. These include behavioral, cognitive behavioral, and the pragmatic family therapies. Being this is an intensive service, therapists typically have 4 to 6 families, and there's an on-call crisis component that is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The average treatment for MST is about 4 to 6 months. There's been a lot of data that this intervention appears to be effective in reducing violent behaviors and substance abusing behaviors as well. It's an individualized approach that also addresses problem behaviors within ecologies in which they occur. So this is an effective treatment for youth with violent behaviors and help with substance abuse treatment. The Positive Action Program for Youth Violence is a 6-week program that was implemented in a summer camp. It helps improve self-esteem, ability to get along with others, bullying behaviors, and normative beliefs about aggression. It creates a safe space for youth to have conversation and help them feel comfortable with one another and be able to interact, and there's different activities that they are able to participate in. Other microinterventions would include individual therapy, trauma therapy, CBT or DBT. It is said that human behavior evolves as a function of the interplay between the person and their environment. So if schools are able to intervene and have strong relationships with parents, that can also help the behaviors decrease. In high crime areas, businesses tend to fail, property fails, tourism declines. So this affects the community and the families involved in many ways. It is important to understand that there are micro, macro, and meso influences for human behavior, and that the behavior is always influenced by our environment. Theorists assume that individuals transact with many environmental contexts over their lifespan. Kramer in 2000 examined what happened when children do not have the support of their family and how it affects the likelihood that they will engage in crime. Families have a reduced ability to support their children when they're facing stressors such as living in poverty. And that is an example too of where MST could come into play and work with the families. If parents are not disciplining their child, they tend to lead to delinquent behaviors. Poor relationships with their child also can lead to these behaviors. Violence in the home and community can cause children to display symptoms of depression, aggression, feelings of loneliness, and at worst, suicidal ideation. Students, if they feel safe in their school, they'll have better academic outcomes. And if students don't feel safe, they may find it difficult to concentrate, which will lower their grades, and they may even avoid attending school. When students do better in school, they are less likely to become engaged in violent activities outside the school. Keeping their grades up will mean they can participate in school activities or sports. Schools are able to train staff how to intervene with students exhibiting problems. MST, which we spoke of earlier, can also assist the school staff with this. Anger management and school-based therapy programs can be offered. Communities can also take an informal social control to manage the community, which is where the community members come together and intervene with the issues in the area. The community can work together, control violence. They're able to break the cycle of community violence. And witnessing these types of crimes does cause PTSD. And it is important for people to be able to manage that if it does happen, or find ways to decrease the violence altogether. More on the macro level, laws, values, and media are influences on communities. Violent crimes are more highlighted in the news, and other areas are affected by crime, not just the community involved. The continued discussions on these violence acts give a negative reputation to the community that they're unsafe. Social learning theory discusses that children grow up in these situations tend to only use violence as their only form of conflict resolution. How a community views the laws is considered on a macro level as well. If the community members don't trust the judicial system or the police, they may continue their social behaviors. Other macro factors are laws and politics related to guns. It has been suggested that the federal and local governments need to put policies in place to prevent easy access of guns to vulnerable individuals. Lack of response by law enforcement reinforces antisocial behaviors. If they're not there, then these behaviors continue because the community feels they need to deal with the issues. If law enforcement is not, it is important to look at the systemic causes of poverty to find solutions to eliminate community violence. If families aren't being able to meet their needs, they are going to be more apt to participate in things like drug dealing or gang violence to be able to obtain the things that they may need. In conclusion, violence continues to be at a high rate. There is more bullying taking place on social media as the rise of internet has increased. Violence in school has become more prevalent as well. This is also something that has been glorified with all the media and news coverage. Mental health and substance use are increasing. Many people are getting involved in drug sales and gangs. As I said prior, they use this as a way to get money. Literature and music are also said to be proven sources of violence by their use of language. TV and video games kind of reinforce the violence as well. And these are things that help desensitize individuals, and that has been overlooked. So the continued of having poverty as a prevalence is definitely keeping the community violence crime rates up, and the social media and TV definitely is not a positive influence on this as well. These are my references that I use for the presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.